Hi, welcome. My name is Jack, and I will be taking you through email security today to increase your resilience and reduce the risk of having a cyber attack. Before we start, we need to talk about what email security is and why it's important. So, obviously, email is one of the most used network services used by a lot of companies, uh, every minute of every day, really. Email security is dealing with the issues of the unauthorized access and the inspection of electronic mail. Emails can go through many servers before reaching their destination, so there's a lot of potential there for a breach. Um, when they're going through these servers, they can be intercepted and the emails can be modified to cause harm for the sender or the recipient to make some profit. If someone wants to gain access to your account, they might be able to collect sensitive information and data. So what we're going to discuss in this presentation is what can be done and what is already in place to mitigate these threats. So at Supportory we use AppRiver. They prevent malware, ransomware, and other advanced threats from compromising your email and business. So malware is essentially just dangerous programs. You may have heard of Trojans, simple viruses. This is all under malware, really. So just anything that will try to harm yourself and your computer. So with AppRiver, if it detects that there's an issue with the email, it will actually put it in the quarantine, and you may have already had a quarantine report before and released your own emails. Phishing is another threat that is quite common nowadays as well. You might get sent an email with a link in it, and it will ask you to enter some sort of credentials or sign into a website. So it might ask for your Microsoft account to sign in to view what it's asking for. And then once you enter that, the attacker will then have your details and then use it to access the real website. So you can see from this graph here, the attacker sends an email to the victim. The victim clicks on the email and goes to the phishing website, types their credentials in, and then the attacker uses those credentials on the legitimate website. Spoofing, another common attack where emails will appear to be from someone they're not. So you might get an email and it says it's from the CEO of a company, but in reality it's actually not, and it's from an attacker. A lot of the time it's just the display name that looks the same, so it might just have the display name of someone that works in the company, but sometimes a more advanced spoofing attack, the email address may appear to be legitimate and the correct one as well. Spam is just unwarranted emails that you receive that are often sent out in bulk. They're very easy to pick up. Services like AppRiver will just move these to the quarantine, and they don't cause too much of a threat. But if you weren't to have a software or a service like AppRiver, you could be in threat, because a lot of this spam, even though it's easy to detect, it does have malware in the attachments. So that's why it's important to have a security service. So what steps can we take to secure ourselves from this threat? So for phishing, we can use a filter like AppRiver with their impersonation protection. It will detect if the email address has come from outside and if it's a spoofed email address, and it will block the email FSI. But in other cases, you can look for a few things, such as whether you can recognize the sender's address. Is it the actual company's domain? So we've got, in the example here, we've got jacob@supportory.co.uk. So that looks like it's more legitimate because we know that our domain is @supportory.co.uk, but sometimes in a phishing email it might be @gmail.com, and it's just the name that appears to be correct. When you're getting sent files as well through email, it's best just to hover over the hyperlink and check if it's pointing to a website or SharePoint that you know already. So in this case, our SharePoint is jlcit.sharepoint.com, so we know that this is at least on our SharePoint and legitimate. So just carrying on with spoofing, if you can see that both the display name and the address are the same as your colleagues, you can be fairly certain that it's fairly certain that it's okay, but there are still signs that you need to look out for, such as how is the email written? Is this how your colleague, or would this be an email that you expect as well, really? So you just need to think about quite a few things. And the best way just to be certain is just pick up the phone, call whoever has supposedly sent you the email and just confirm with them. And that's the best way to be sure. As discussed before, the spam filter, so support tree, we mainly use AppRiver, and it will detect most spam. And the built-in Office 365 does move emails to the junk folder, but it's still a bit of a risk because they're still there on your email client. If you're using a service like AppRiver, it will be blocked out before it even gets to your client, which reduces the risk of accidentally opening a spam email and downloading some malware. So what other security features can you do to prevent threats from happening? So we've set up MFA, which is multi-factor authentication. This is essentially needing multiple steps before you're able to log in. So you have to prove multiple times that it's actually you that's logging in. So an example is one step would be your password, and then the second step would be your phone verification. So it's more likely to be you that's logging in because it's very unlikely that someone would have your password and have your phone with your app to get signed in. We also have KnowBe4, which is it's an awareness training site, really. It has educational videos for phishing and other threats. So users will get sent normally weekly videos on how to detect threats, gives funny examples really on how it could happen in the workplace, and it also comes with a phishing button, and it sends out fake phishing emails. So the users will have a phishing button on their Outlook, and if they suspect that the email is phishing, they can tag it by clicking the button, and it will send the email off to KnowBe4. And if it matches with the one that KnowBe4 sent out to test, that gets reported back, and then you can kind of gauge how well the users are responding to phishing emails and if they're picking it up or not. If the users are opening the links in phishing emails that's sent out by KnowBe4, that's flagged as well, and it's reported back. So you can pick up which users are more vulnerable to a threat. And that's it. We'd just like to say thank you for listening, and I hope you've learned something in this webinar and would consider AppRiver and KnowBe4. Thank you.